so our agenda for today, Liz and I are going to walk you through a presentation, and then hopefully everyone saw in their meeting reminder that we are doing a bit of an interactive exercise to gather your feedback at the end of the meeting. So hopefully folks have an extra smartphone or a tablet they can utilize. It is possible to use your computer while on the presentation to participate in the interactive exercise as well. It is just a little bit easier if you have a separate device, but that will be at the tail end of the meeting. Before we get to that point, we're going to walk you through a little bit of a project overview. What is a local waterfront revitalization program? What is the process that this entails? Liz is going to walk you through some key findings and opportunities. We've been plugging away at this since 2020, so we already have some initial work completed, which we want to share with you this evening, and then we'll talk a little bit about next steps and where do we go from here. So what is a local waterfront revitalization program? It is a New York State Department of State funded program, so funding has been provided through New York State. It is more than an actual plan. At the end of the day, the county will be getting a deliverable that is a plan, but it is actually part of a larger program, which is really focused on implementing projects and facilitating not only waterfront revitalization, but really about placemaking, economic revitalization of communities, increasing people's access to the waterfront, natural resources, recreation, and also addressing resiliency and flood protection. So it really is a comprehensive and holistic plan that is intended to guide decision-making at the county and municipal level. And perhaps most importantly, it does identify a vision for the county's waterfront and the strategies and the steps to achieve that vision. So the benefits of an LWRP, in addition to providing clear direction for waterfront development, when I mentioned it was part of a program, tied to that program are enhanced opportunities for public funding. So once the county and individual communities have adopted the local waterfront revitalization program, it does open the door to additional funding resources at the state level. It also opens up lines of communication between various levels of government, so municipal, county, state government, and it ensures that the actions and policies identified in the plan align or require alignment by state and federal agencies when they come in and undertake projects to be consistent with the overarching vision for the planning process. So when we refer to the LWRP area, for a countywide LWRP, it is a rather expansive study area. It encompasses portions of 22 municipalities within the county, 6 designated inland waterways. Our study area covers over 40,000 acres and includes 186 miles of water frontage. So you'll see in the map, the only area excluded from the LWRP boundary, the countywide boundary, that is adjacent to a waterway is the city of Binghamton. And the reason the city of Binghamton is excluded from the formal boundary is because the city has their own local waterfront revitalization program and are actually currently in the process of updating it. So although not included within our technical boundary, we are having conversations and we'll make sure there is alignment with the city's LWRP. I did introduce the Bergman team, but wanted to also make sure everyone's aware of the larger project team. As we mentioned, the funding for the project is largely coming from the New York State Department of State, and they are providing both financial and technical assistance to the process. Broome County is overseeing the plan through Beth and Stephanie and their team at the County Planning Department. We also have a waterfront advisory committee, which includes representatives from the various municipalities throughout the county, as well as from other agencies and organizations with a direct knowledge or interest within the waterfront area, which includes municipal leaders as well as business owners and community members. On the consultant side, we are supported by a team of experts in various topic areas related to the LWRP. So also on our team is Sustainable Planning Design, Camoin 310, Alleyway Marketing, and Prudent Engineering. So then getting into the LWRP process. So the LWRP process can really be broken down into 5 distinct elements, with community and stakeholder engagement really being the thread that ties all of those 5 elements together. So the process begins with an understanding of local consultation and understanding what local needs are, a very thorough inventory and analysis, the development of policies, which are enforceable through an adopted LWRP, the identification of water-based and community-based revitalization projects, and then strategies to actually facilitate implementation of the LWRP. So talking about each of these in just a little bit more detail, with regards to local commitment and consultation, I talked a little bit about some of the stakeholders and team members associated with the project. So that does include a waterfront advisory committee. In addition to working closely with the county and the committee, we are also conducting interviews with municipal stakeholders, and we'll be moving forward with focus groups on specific topic areas such as river usage or bicycle access. And then this is also the first of multiple public workshops that will be held over the course of the planning process. We'd also like everyone to know that we do have a project website. It is broomewaterfront.com. So please feel free to visit the website. As we move forward with the project, it will be continuously updated and information will be available via the project website. There is also a contact us page on the website. So if you think of something in the middle of the night, a project idea or a question that you weren't able to ask at today's meeting, you can always log on to the project website and click on the contact us, and those questions and comments will come directly to our project team. Any future meetings will also be advertised at this project website. And in case you missed any of the content from tonight, recordings, copies of PowerPoints, and other information will also be available on the site. As I mentioned, step 2 is a very thorough inventory and analysis of a variety of socioeconomic and physical characteristics of the Waterfront Revitalization Area, or WRA, which is what we refer to as the study area. So on the screen here are just a list of the different types of topics that we have looked at. Liz is going to talk in a little more detail about some of our initial findings associated with this list of inventory and analysis areas. Step 3 of the process is focused on policies and programs. So across the state, there is a standard template for the development of local waterfront revitalization programs, and essentially allows consistency among LWRPs across the state as it relates to content areas, while still allowing for all of the personalization that is needed to really address the unique opportunities and constraints in any specific study area. So this is the element of the LWRP that is really enforceable as it relates to ensuring projects are consistent with an adopted and approved LWRP. But there are 10 state-defined subject areas that the policy section are organized around, and there are state policies that are created and then personalized to address local needs and objectives, but these are consistent across all LWRPs as it relates to overarching policies and subject areas. The really fun part of the project is when we get into defining projects. And we will be looking at projects both at a regional level and thinking about the county as a whole and how different projects relate to one another. So this can be trail connections, transportation, accessibility. But then we also are looking at projects really at the local scale as well. So are there particular opportunities in any given community to improve access in an existing park or create a new recreation opportunity on a municipally owned site, or work with a private property owner to encourage economic revitalization of the waterfront area. So this bulleted list on the left side of your slide just gives you an indication of all the types of projects that will be explored as we move forward and really start getting into greater detail as it relates to project identification. And then the really important part is implementing the LWRP. So we'll have a series of policies, a series of projects. How does this actually get accomplished at the local and the county regional level? So we will be drafting what's called a local waterfront consistency review law that individual communities can adopt and take into account, making sure that any projects within their boundaries that are within the waterfront revitalization area comply with the recommendations and the vision of the LWRP. We'll also look at other opportunities for new regulations and zoning updates that might be needed in order to facilitate implementation of the LWRP. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Liz, and she is going to talk in a little more detail about the existing conditions analysis and some of the initial key findings.
Great, thanks, Kimberly. So as Kimberly mentioned, some of the work that's been completed today includes a really comprehensive, robust analysis of existing resources, assets, opportunities and challenges within the waterfront revitalization area. And this has really been informed by a lot of the past planning efforts that have happened across the county, as well as at the local municipal level. And then also we've begun to start conducting municipal interviews to really gather a lot of local knowledge and understand some of the really the nuanced aspects of the waterfront from each municipality's perspective. So some of, as Beth mentioned at the very beginning of this presentation, this LWRP update for the county really builds on the 2011 intermunicipal waterfront public access plan that was completed. And then also in tandem is working to advance the priorities of some other countywide plans, such as the recent comprehensive plan update, the agricultural economic development plan, the county's hazard mitigation plan, natural resources inventory, parks plan, and the New York Rising planning that was done back in 2014. In addition to these countywide plans, we're also, as we're speaking to the different municipalities that are within the study area, we're looking at local comprehensive plans, as well as looking at some really detailed feasibility studies, say, for example, improvements to waterfront parks or expansions of waterfront trail systems. So really understanding both the kind of regional issues, objectives, and priorities across the county, as well as some of the very fine scale site-specific objectives and priorities at the community or municipality level. Looking at the kind of just a quick community snapshot of the WRA or the study area as a whole and how that compares to Broome County from 2000 until now, and also forecasted to 2025, population both within the waterfront revitalization area as well as across the county as a whole has been declining. Currently, there is a total population of about 34,000 within the waterfront revitalization area, and that's expected to decrease by about 1,000 over the next 5 years. In terms of how that population is structured from both an age and race perspective, the largest category of people within the population fall within the 35 to 64-year-old age class. So kind of middle-aged population, that's very similar. The age structure within the study area is really similar to the county as a whole. And both within the study area and the county, the population is predominantly white. And really, these kind of higher level snapshots of the community and the socioeconomic profile of the community give us just some initial understanding of who lives within the waterfront revitalization area, how that relates to the county and the state as a whole, and how we will begin to start identifying proposed projects to really tailor those projects to the needs of the local population. Throughout the waterfront revitalization area, there are a diversity of land uses that occur. The land use that covers the most area throughout the waterfront revitalization area is single-family residential uses. And these really kind of occur pretty evenly throughout the study area. There are also quite a few vacant parcels throughout the study area, and these start to become really kind of exciting opportunities, particularly if they're publicly owned, for redevelopment and identifying opportunities to really improve access to the waterfront, improve conditions around the waterfront, and connectivity to the waterfront. Agricultural uses are also quite high within the waterfront revitalization area, and those uses are really concentrated along the upper Susquehanna in the towns of Colesville and Windsor. And I think especially unique to this group that's on the call tonight, there's quite a diversity and mix of land uses, particularly in the more urbanized areas along the lower Susquehanna and the Shenango River. And commercial uses in particular, about 6% of the land use within the study area is comprised of commercial uses, which is relatively high if you compare it to the county, and really presents some exciting opportunities for projects that better connect some of these maybe more commercial or tourism driven destinations to the waterfront and really build that relationship. Looking at some of the publicly owned land across the waterfront revitalization area, about 16% of the whole study area is publicly owned. A lot of this is driven by the federally owned land up at the Whitney Point Reservoir, as well as some larger swaths of land owned by the state, including Shenango Valley State Park and the SUNY Binghamton campus, which is partially kind of captured along the lower Susquehanna in the study area. But there's also quite a bit of municipally owned land, and really municipally owned land that falls right along the waterfront, especially here in the lower Susquehanna. The village of Endicott has quite a few publicly owned parcels along the waterfront, as well as the town of Vestal and in the town of Conklin and Kirkwood. And these are really opportunities for implementing future projects to enhance access to and connectivity along the waterfront. In terms of access and existing access to the waterfront, we have looked at and mapped public access points. So this includes public boat launches throughout the waterfront revitalization area, shown in green, public fishing areas, a majority of which are DEC or the owned by New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. There are 11 of those throughout the study area, and then 3 boat rental locations, which are concentrated up in the northern part along Whitney Point Reservoir and also along the Shenango River near Shenango Valley State Park. In addition to kind of the diversity and vibrancy of the land uses associated with the WRA and the public accesses and water dependent uses within the study area, the study area, as well as Broome County as a whole, has access to really a diversity and abundance of natural resources. Shown here on this map are New York State protected areas that fall within the waterfront revitalization area, and about 14% of the land and water within the waterfront revitalization area is a New York State protected area. These areas are legally recognized by the state as essential for biodiversity conservation and the protection of endangered and threatened species. and really just underscore the importance of the waterfront revitalization area, not only from a public use and human use standpoint, but also its value from a natural resource standpoint. And again, a lot of these areas are kind of captured within some of the larger parks and reserves that occur throughout the waterfront revitalization area, including Whitney Point, Chenango Valley State Park, and Otsego County Park. But hand in hand with having a lot of really rich water resources, urbanization, and natural resources is that there are flood hazards that occur throughout the county and particularly within the waterfront revitalization area. The Susquehanna River Basin is one of the most flood-prone regions in the nation, and within the last 2 decades, there have been 2 federal disaster declarations, one in 2006 and one in 2011, due to flooding within Broome County. Across the county, there are 24 different flood control structures that are owned and maintained by the county to really mitigate some of the flood hazards that exist. And this map shows the existing 100-year floodplain and 500-year floodplain in yellow and orange respectively. But a lot of the existing floodplain maps are based on older data, and some of the new preliminary data that's coming in through FEMA is really indicating that the existing maps don't capture the full breadth of risk associated with flooding. So you'll see in some areas the preliminary data is indicating that the 100-year floodplain really is larger and more expansive than is shown in the older flood maps. In addition to the kind of natural resources that occur throughout the waterfront revitalization area, we've also been looking at recreational, cultural, and historical assets that are kind of unique destinations within the waterfront revitalization area. In terms of public parks, about 13% of the waterfront revitalization area is comprised of public parks. There are 36 parks. Of those, 21 or over half have direct waterfront access. A majority of the parks are municipally owned, and they're really concentrated along the Shenango River and the lower Susquehanna. But there are also public parks along the upper Susquehanna and around Whitney Point Reservoir and the upper stretches of the Shenango River. And these parks are really unique and valuable public access points and opportunities for the public to get out and really experience the diverse and unique attributes of the county's waterfront resources. And the different assets and resources that these parks provide are really diverse across the county, from different boating opportunities on very different waterways throughout the county to hiking opportunities, more kind of family-oriented, children-oriented destinations like playgrounds and more urban parks, as well as opportunities to really just get out and kind of immerse yourself in a peaceful, natural, tranquil environment. Associated with a lot of the parks throughout the study area are trails and greenways. There are about 35 miles of trails and greenways within the entire waterfront revitalization area. In addition to being associated with parks, they're also often found or located along former rail lines. And these trails and greenways really begin to carve out the foundation for multimodal systems that help connect municipalities to one another, both locally as well as at a regional scale across the county. So these will start to provide a foundation for some other proposed projects that will come out of the LWRP that really focus on connectivity and mobility within the waterfront revitalization area. And there are also really rich cultural resources found throughout the waterfront revitalization area. The Broome County and the study area are home to the Oneida Nation and Onondaga Nation. It's also part of the Susquehanna Heritage Area, and there are several different sites, structures, and buildings that occur throughout the study area that are listed on the National Register, as well as several state and local historic districts and National Register historic register districts. And just like parks, these natural resources and cultural resources provide unique destinations that are tourism opportunities that also are opportunities to really develop and enhance kind of the character of the places that are found along the waterfront. And so just kind of in summary, some of the key findings that we have identified to date, the real opportunities are that across the WRA and Broome County as a whole, there's really a diversity of different landscapes, natural resources, water resources, and destinations. And this really is a solid foundation for identifying new projects to occur that enhance the waterfront experience. Again, there's a concentration of water resources and rich cultural and historic resources. There is the foundation for a lot of regional connectivity with the existing trails and greenway systems that can be expanded and built upon. And through a lot of our municipal interviews, a lot of this work is already happening. There's a lot of plans to expand several of the existing trails that are already along the waterfront. There's a lot of publicly owned land along the waterfront that could be leveraged to expand existing public resources as well as provide new ones. And there is a lot of ongoing revitalization in downtowns, particularly along the lower Susquehanna, and connecting these downtowns to the waterfront will likely be a major driver in terms of the project identification phase of the LWRP. Some of the challenges, but also potentially, these can be spun to be opportunities as well, is that the population is declining, but that's consistent with the county as a whole. There are some existing barriers to waterfront access, from transportation systems to flood control structures, but we'll be looking at these from a creative approach to ensure that their functionality is retained, but maybe we can look at opportunities for visual access to waterfront resources or creative ways to kind of get around these barriers. There's a lot of flood and erosion hazards within the study area that we will be cognizant of as we begin to craft policies, as well as propose projects. There is some limited regional and multimodal transportation options, and this is largely due to the fact that most of the waterfront revitalization area falls outside of urban centers, so it is fairly car dependent, but some of the existing trail and greenway systems provide a really unique opportunity for enhancing multimodal transportation. And the fact that this LWRP does span 22 different municipalities, just going into it, understanding that communication across municipalities is very important to really craft that shared unified vision. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Kimberly to talk a little bit more about project identification and some of the next steps.
Great. Thank you. So kind of looking long term at the entirety of the LWRP process, we are targeting fall of this year to have a draft LWRP, which then gets submitted to the state for review, and the timeline after that can vary a little bit, but there will be a document ready for public review and consumption by the fall of this year. So local commitment and consultation is ongoing and will be over the entire duration of the planning process. We have completed the draft inventory and analysis and are really jumping headfirst into project identification and then the parallel policies and programs that go along with that. So as we head into early summer, we do intend to have some draft ideas outlined for both policies as well as local and regional projects. And you can expect subsequent public workshops to occur in the spring and summer focused on larger LWRP oriented projects, and then a separate meeting that's really focused on that Blueway or Riverway trail that Beth alluded to at the beginning of the meeting. And then into the summer and into the early fall, we will be compiling the document. But the project identification really is our key next step in the process. So using the inventory and analysis as a base, as well as all of those past plans, including the 2011 plan, and our municipal interviews and conversations, all really lay the foundation for identifying preliminary projects. Also helping us to identify projects is some of the feedback that we're hoping to get from you this evening when we transition into our interactive exercise. And then if you go to the next slide, Liz, we did talk briefly about the Blueway Trail Plan. So again, this is really a deeper dive complement into the LWRP. So as part of an LWRP, we would be looking at waterfront access and amenities, but the Blueway Trail Plan will allow us to focus more specifically on the waterfront corridor as a recreation and transportation asset, and to look really deeply into promoting and marketing the waterway network within the county as a really great asset for both residents and visitors. So more to come on that. And again, we will be hosting a separate series of meetings really focused and specific to this category as well. So if you're really interested in the water side piece of the LWRP, keep your eyes open for additional information regarding this particular element of the project. And then again, just a reminder to check out the project website, broomewaterfront.com. Again, as we continue to make progress and move forward, we will be continuing to update the website with the latest information. And then just to wrap up with the PowerPoint. So I don't know how many folks, since more meetings have been in a virtual format, have had the opportunity to do an interactive survey via the meeting format, but we're going to ask you to grab your phone, grab another device, a tablet, or if you are using your computer, just to open another tab at the top of your computer and type in the website www.menti.com. When you type that in, it's going to ask you to enter a code, and the code for our interactive survey is 9179091. So if you can close out of this, Liz, and I will open up the survey. Switch roles here. Okay, and people are jumping right in and already answering the question, which is great. Okay, so trying to understand in which municipality folks reside in. And you can see, for those of you that haven't done one of these surveys yet, you can see in the lower right-hand corner, there's a number. You can see now we're at 11. That is just showing us how many people have responded to the survey so far. I'm going to give it another minute because I know we had just over 30 people on the call. So just wanting to make sure everyone can get situated and grab their other device and participate. And again, the contact information is at the top, menti.com, and you can see the code 9179091, but it'll always be here at the top of the screen. Okay, so we are seeing a number of folks from Binghamton. We've got one from Shenango, Dickinson, Endicott. So we've got a wide variety of representation here. And then we do have two other responses. So if those folks would be willing to share where they are from, is it another community in Broome County that is just not listed on this slide? Okay, and so just as an FYI, because this meeting is focused on really the urban corridor from the Mentimeter component, that's why these communities are listed. And then we do have our meeting on Wednesday, which will focus on more of the rural communities. And we'll hopefully see more participation from those rural community representatives as well. Okay, so the next question. So this gives us some good context. The next question, how often do you visit destinations along the county's waterfront? And this could be a waterfront trail, it could be a waterfront park, it could be you know, fishing access or boat access. Okay, so there is some pretty active use of the county's existing waterfront destinations. So if anyone is willing to unmute and chime in, those maybe we'll start with those that visit a destination on a daily or weekly frequency. If anyone who selected daily or weekly wants to unmute and share which destinations they visit, we'd love to hear some of your feedback.
Hi there, I'll speak.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karen Beebe. I'm one of the Broome County legislators. I live in the village of Port Dickinson, which is sandwiched nicely between Otsonango Park and Port Dickinson Park, which are both awesome community resources. Both are bike friendly and pedestrian friendly, and now both are pet friendly. So my family and I enjoy using both of them daily. Otsonango maybe more weekly at this point, but what a lovely well, resource located right within our neighborhoods. We're very fortunate.
Okay, great. And thank you for breaking the ice for us.
You're welcome.
Anyone else willing to you know, share where they like to visit, their destination of choice?
I'm Scott Regal, and I'm fortunate to live close enough to work on the south side of Binghamton. I work at downtown, and so I am frequently along the Two Rivers Greenway, walking to work each day.
Okay, great. Thank you, Scott. Did I hear someone else as well?
Yes, I'm Bill. As a former kayaker, I visit Whitney Point weekly, I guess just to reminisce about old times.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so going on to the next question. Tell us what your favorite time of year to visit the waterfront is. And you're gonna pick these from first choice, second, third, fourth. So you're gonna rank them in priority of your favorites. I was wondering, with all the snow we've had and the cold weather, if winter was gonna be in fourth place.
I think that's a challenge of the plan. Have to get winter up to the top somehow.
Yeah.
Something really fun.
Okay, so we've got summer as first choice. Fall and spring are pretty much a tie, our transitional seasons, and then we do have winter in fourth place. And back to your point, you know, that might just be because of a lack of winter programming and opportunities that present themselves around the waterfront. So that is certainly something that we will be further exploring and talking about as part of this process. Okay, so tell us how you typically get to waterfront destinations. So if you're going to visit a park or fishing access, how are you getting there? Okay, so most people are driving to their destination and then getting out and enjoying it. Do have a fair number that are walking and biking. And just curious if that is because you're using an existing trail network to access destinations, or if it's because of the proximity to waterfront destinations that allows you to walk from your home or your place of employment. So if anyone's willing to share more about their personal experience here, that would help give us a little bit of context. Okay. So next question. In which water-based activities do you currently participate? So you can choose as many as apply: boating and paddling, swimming, fishing, wildlife viewing, something else, or do you not currently participate in water-based activities? Okay, so seeing a large percentage of folks that do participate in wildlife viewing, almost 50% of all respondents to this survey. So that is a great opportunity, and knowing that there's strong interest in that type of activity will also help us frame some of the project identification. And then as we start to look at the other activities such as boating and swimming, we will continue to explore why participation is at the percentages it is. Is it lack of facilities, or is it just not a strong element of interest for local residents and visitors? So those topics will, again, this is kind of a segue into the Blueway Riverway Trail, but these topics will be further explored as part of that process. But this gives us a really good starting point. So again, here you can choose more than one. So thinking about your experience with the waterfront in Broome County, which types of improvements would improve that experience for you? More public access points, better amenities, better connectivity, more programming, better parking, or do you have any other ideas? Okay, so I'm going to pause here at this question and see if we can get anyone to provide us any additional feedback. So we did get a number of folks that selected other, what other types of projects would improve your waterfront experience? Would anyone that selected other be willing to share what's on their mind and what types of improvements they would like to see? We've got a shy group. Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
I think as far as like the Blue Waterway or however you were saying that before, there's a number of dams or like unmarked dams that kind of like break it up in Johnson City and Binghamton. And I think that deters people from wanting to get involved in boating or swimming in those areas. I know those are like very large projects to consider removing or modifying, but that's something I have heard about in the past.
Okay, great. That's great. Thank you. Anyone else, whether other or any of the other responses, anyone else want to share any specific thoughts about improvement projects they would like to see? Imagine sky's the limit. No monetary constraints.
Hi, I'll speak again.
Thanks.
Well, actually it got me thinking when you were talking about winter being the least favorite when surveyed. So I know that like Dorchester Park, they have little like paddle boat rentals in the summer, maybe encouraging with like snowshoe and cross-country ski rentals would maybe get people more interested in using outdoor recreation in the wintertime.
Okay, great. So more rental programs and availability for activities. Perfect.
Hi, this might go under like formal events and activities, but kind of also going off of what you just said, more educational programs. Like I know a lot of people who want to do certain activities but don't really know how to do them.
Okay, great. That's perfect. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I have two things to say. One is that I would like to see projects that are feasible for older people who have some mobility problems. And secondly, to have a place available that is not too secluded so people feel that they are not by themselves.
Okay, great feedback. Thank you. Safety and a sense of safety and are really important aspects to improve comfort and usage. So that's great. Thank you. Any other thoughts? This is great feedback. Okay. So in your opinion, what are the most important assets that the waterfront revitalization area already has? Is it the parks and trails, the wildlife habitat, view sheds? Is it the adjacent downtowns that are in close proximity to the waterfront areas? Historic and cultural resources or other? And this helps us to identify, which assets we really need to focus on, strategies to retain and expand. Okay, so we're seeing parks and trails and wildlife habitat really rising to the top. So some of those recreation and natural amenities, but then also a lot of support for, downtowns, and often associated with those downtown areas are the historic and cultural resources as well. So no others on this one. So this one we're limiting you to picking 3. And if you had to pick only your top 3 out of these 8 categories, what are the most important issues the LWRP should address? So we've got tourism, parks and trail access, public access to the rivers, connecting downtowns, historic and cultural interpretation, water quality, natural hazards, such as flooding, and natural resource preservation. So if anyone had ever been to a public meeting pre-pandemic, you probably got a dot sticker at some point at a public meeting and were asked to rank something. So this is as close as we've been able to find to dot stickers in a virtual format. Let's give it another minute. Okay, and we are seeing really a strong tie here at the top, so a lot of important issues to be addressing through this process, which is good because actually all 8 of these topics will be fully covered as part of the LWRP, but understanding, you know, the highest priorities where we can really focus our resources is important. So parks and trails, water quality, downtowns, and natural resources are all indicated as top priorities for this process. So we kind of got into this a little bit on the previous question, but this gives you an opportunity to actually type in a response. So again, sky's the limit. If there were no constraints, so no regulatory constraints, no financial constraints, no constraints from an environmental perspective, what is one project you would most like to see implemented on the waterfront? So, you know, sometimes we call this our blue sky question. So any idea, no matter how big, we'd love to hear your thoughts on projects you'd like to see. Okay, continuous greenway, great. So completing the trail network countywide, a pedestrian bridge, great. Waterfront dining, so water enhanced uses that tie into economic revitalization, great. Clean up the water and dredge, restaurants, parks that cater to seniors, so making sure that there's programming for all ages. Education, which was mentioned earlier. Another comment regarding the continuous path, improved water quality, clean. So seeing that is a theme multiple times here. Bicycle access, more public events, which can tie to the waterfront entertainment venue idea. Okay, so a couple of key themes here with regards to the trail connectivity and expansion, improving some pedestrian and bicycle attractions, the references to economic development as well with the water enhanced uses such as restaurants, clean water, and then the programming and entertainment aspects as well. Okay, so all great feedback. Thank you, everyone. And that actually wraps up our Mentimeter survey. So I'm going to see if I can figure out how to stop sharing my screen. And we can open that up for any final comments or thoughts or questions that folks might have. If we want to have a little bit of an open dialogue, we're happy to answer any questions.
Is Wednesday night's session the same as tonight's, just with a different group of people?
Yes, so the presentation itself will be the same, and then a couple of the Mentimeter questions might be slightly different to account for a focus on more of the rural communities. And again, both sessions will be recorded and the recordings will be posted on the project website, which actually the question just came in. So yes, recordings will be posted on the project website.
And we can send out an email notice once those are up, since we have you all registered. So we'll let you know once that's up on the website and send a direct link.
Is there any way that we can subscribe to get updates on the future developments with this project through email or something?
We can develop a project list, so we can start with we will compile the lists of attendees for the first 2 public meetings. And typically what we do is then keep those folks informed about upcoming events. So we will be doing that and sharing information about upcoming public opportunities.
I guess also if you know someone that wasn't able to attend tonight that might want to have these updates when there's new meetings, there's a contact us form on the website so they can submit their email through that and we can add them to the list as well.
Looks like Beth is getting a crown.
It's like the hook coming out. I guess I'll just say I want to thank everybody for attending today, and I think that the next meeting is going to probably be, hopefully it'll be a nice interactive. We really look at some of the projects, and so hopefully some of you can join us whenever we have that next meeting.
Yep, and depending on where things stand, we were able to last summer conduct some meetings outdoors in a safe manner, in an outdoor setting. So we're hoping that this spring, summer allows us to do something similar as it relates to this project, and we can actually go to some of those waterfront destinations and host some public engagement and have some conversations face to face as part of future efforts. So stay tuned, and we will notify you when we do get those events planned, but we're hoping we can take advantage of that this year as well.
All right, thank you very much, Kimberly, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, and we will be in touch. And again, if you have any follow-up questions or thoughts afterwards, please feel free to leave them on the project website.
All right, have a good night, everyone. Yep.
Thank you.